you see a tripling of the ICU beds, when you see a doubling of hospitalizations just over a 4-day period, that's a point of not just consideration, it's a point of obvious concern as it relates to our ability to meet not only the physical needs of that surge, but the personal protective equipment that is required of it, and obviously the human capital that we're speaking of today. And so I don't want to say that it's worked, but I will say I think we have benefited in terms of our capacity to prepare, but we're very sober about what these trend lines are looking, or at least instructing over the next couple of weeks.
Governor, you mentioned you wanted to increase the number of medical workers by about 37,000. That just seems like a really large logistical challenge. I'm wondering how the state can go about doing that in a short amount of time. And do you know where they would go? Would they go to field hospitals or existing hospitals or both?
No, and thank you for the opportunity to clarify. That's just the universe of individuals that are retired or in active licenses that we project are out there. So that's not the number that we're trying to bring in. That's the universe that we're trying to pull from. So we're looking for thousands and thousands of individuals. And again, it depends on the expertise. It depends on the specific skill set. And we're parsing those out throughout the system, working very collaboratively with our entire hospital system, as well as our skilled nursing facilities, our assisted living, congregate facilities, and the like. It's all part of this larger system. And so we're scoping a universe of 37,000, and those will break down in real time, and it's geographic, it's system by system, it's capacity that we're looking for. Let me be specific. When we open up the sleep train center, it's capacity we're looking for when we open up these field medical stations. That capacity differentiates itself on needs. In Riverside, they may have certain needs. Santa Clara County has different needs. Counties can absorb more in these more resourced parts of the state. They can absorb less, so we have to supplement that in other parts of the state. So it's an iterative process, but the universe is 37,000, and thousands is the number that we hope in very real terms, in short order, will present themselves, and we can start making those moves.
Oh no.
Hi, Governor. I just wanted to clarify again about 37,000. Would the nursing students you mentioned, would they be granted provisional licenses to practice? And then what would happen after the pandemic is over? Would they go back to school, or what would happen?
Yeah, let me ask Dr. Galley to come up and talk specifically about it.
Sure. So our goal is to recruit both retired and active folks, people who have part-time roles now who can increase their hours. And to your specific question about students, depending on where they are in their degree, we're obviously looking to people who were near graduation and fulfilling their degrees. So many are not able to finish those last 2 months. The schools are out because of the COVID-19 response. So who better than those folks who are really close to being done to bring into the workforce now, essentially continue their clinical training with the support of experienced nurses or other health professionals that are in the same line of work that they will be, and invite them into the work. And depending on where they were and how many months they are surging, we will have to work with our licensing boards to determine whether they've completed enough of their training to get fully licensed on an ongoing basis, or whether they need to return back to the classroom in their clinical rotations to finish up and get their license down the road.
Hey, Governor, thank you for taking our questions. We wanted to ask, so looking at your projections and the modeling that you all have done, when do they indicate that the state could be reaching the capacity in terms of the hospital beds needed? When could they be overwhelmed? Roughly, if you can't provide a specific date, when roughly would that happen? And then just one more thing to tail on the end of that is, we're wondering if the state's plans to expand capacity are being done in addition into what individual hospitals and hospital systems might be doing, or is it spearheading the across the board response?
Just on that, we are working hand in glove within the system. I'll remind you, roughly 75,000 licensed beds in the state of California. We requested a surge of the system, 50,000 beds, 30,000 of those a requirement within the hospital system themselves, which represents roughly a 40% surge. And so that's actively being advanced within the hospital system itself. We are required for the additional 20,000 to go out and access and resource additional capacity. As I said, USNS Mercy, part of that. All of these field medical stations are part of that, and all of these other hospitals that we're bringing online, Fairview, Porterville, and these other assets that I referred to that the Army Corps of Engineers and others are looking towards are part of those 20,000. So that's an integrated strategy within and externally outside of that system, but all being coordinated through the folks here at the State Operations Center. As it relates to your other part of the question of when we're seeing peak, that's determined on the basis of our personal behavior. That's determined on the basis of abiding by the stay-at-home order, making sure essential versus non-essential business is being conducted, and on the basis of our modeling and projections over the last weeks, not just this 4-day period that I gave you as a snapshot. I can just say this without getting into the specifics and showing you a chart of a worst case scenario or a best case scenario and having people run with those things, that over the course of the next few weeks, we are very confident that in the aggregate, and that's a distinction, in the aggregate, that we will be able to resource the needs both physically and if we're successful with the healthcorps.ca.gov efforts with a human resource. We'll continue to make the case that PPE and the supply side of this continues to be a challenge. Despite the 32.6 million N95 masks we've put out, tens of millions have already been requested of the state throughout our system and beyond the system. As you know, this is a huge issue for our grocers, the big issues for those that deliver the groceries, and many others that are also looking for personal protective gear as well. So we need more work there, resource on the health and human service side. But over the course of the next few weeks, I have some confidence in our capacity to meet the moment. Dr. Ghaly can help fill in and amplify or redirect consideration to what I made before.
Governor, you hit it right on the nose. I think at the moment, the modeling that we show and where we are with our projections and actuals is that our current efforts around surge meet the moment, and that we're able to take care of anybody who needs a hospital bed today, anyone who needs an ICU bed or needs a ventilator, and our efforts to increase staff, increase beds, increase supplies are on track to continue to meet that for weeks to come. And just to reiterate what the governor said, that as we continue our physical distancing efforts, that those are going to help us change what those curves and lines look like. So to continue supporting our neighbors and our communities to do that well is of utmost importance.
I know it's an old mantra, decisions, not conditions, determine our fate and future. Decisions, not conditions. So I don't live on the basis of economic forecasts any more than healthcare forecasts. I live on the basis of our capacity to bend curves, to change expectations by changing behavior. And that's why what Dr. Ghaly said is so foundational, so incredibly important. The power and potency we have as individuals to radically change these projections. It resides in each and every one of us, in each and every decision we make each and every day. And that social pressure we're seeing out there for people to do the right thing is the most powerful enforcement tool we have. And we'll continue to use that as our moral authority is advanced all throughout the state of California. To the extent we have to exercise our formal authority as it relates to licensing and business revocation because people abuse it, in law enforcement, we will. But again, I'm just incredibly blessed and pleased to live in a state where so many people get it and increasingly are getting it done. Next question, please.
Hi, Governor. I have a two-part question. questions. So one is based on your community surveillance testing and your modeling that you've done today, how many people do you think are infected with the virus in California? And then the second part kind of adds on to what Angela asked, but I'm curious why you're reluctant to give a peak date. So kind of the date that the administration is working off of right now.
Well, because first of all, just on that, it's a dynamic model, and it radically is different, I can assure you, than it was just 4 or 5 days ago. And if we had a model that I can more confidently say, based on all of these conditions and everything being static, then we would provide it to you. But I can assure you, we are running those models in real time. And remember, these models aren't just on the basis of current infection rates or the community surveillance and testing. It's also on the basis of movement. It's based all these inputs. We mentioned this a few weeks ago, working with Esri, working with Blue Dot, working with Facebook, Apple, and others. We have our modeling that is done on a daily basis based upon these patterns, as well as patterns across the rest of the country and around the rest of the world. More specifically, though, Dr. Galley can fill in a little bit more in terms of making sure that you're satisfied that we are providing that information in real time and give you a sense of preview of our thinking as it relates to making more public those best and worst case scenarios.
Sure, I'll come back to a number that the governor uses frequently, which is our 50,000 additional beds. That number is based on the model. So we are preparing it. We call it our phase 1 number because we know that depending on how we perform with our physical distancing efforts across the state, that number is tracked towards an expectation that we meet this moment with physical distancing. And that's what we're going to need based on our models. Half of the month of May. So we are very busy trying to build towards that. That includes at least an additional 10,000 beds in an ICU setting with ventilators to support that number of patients. So those are the numbers we are certainly working towards. It does not mention the total number of people who are infected or who test positive, because that is highly dependent on our increasing work to bring on testing. But the live people in emergency rooms and hospital beds and in ICUs requiring ventilation support do not lie. We have good intel into those numbers on a daily basis with all of our healthcare partners, and we believe that will continue to guide us on this road that we've been on towards that middle of May target, and we are constantly reassessing as the governor has said. These numbers are changing. We know that every single day we get additional information about what the actuals are that help us adjust that model. And we hope, because of our great performance here in California with physical distancing, that we will continue and the governor will communicate all of you. One of the areas that they've also done, not just a surge model, hospitals have done a magnificent job as it relates to reducing the number of elective surgeries and reducing the total census within the hospital system to a degree that, candidly, in our original models, we did not anticipate. It just goes to the incredible capacity within the system to prepare for this moment. And so, as a consequence on the surge, that slack, that number phase 1 still remains around 50,000, despite all the other changing conditions. Mention the ratios and allows us to work with our facilities and our labor partners to do with who can get licensed, how they can reinstate their license, and being flexible and waiving some of those tried and true rules that allow us to enter somebody out of the workforce for years just under 5 years, or how they allow them to as well as allowing individuals that are simply not
Hi, Governor. Thanks for taking questions. Wanted to see if there were any updates on numbers for testing kits. As far as how many are available to the state for those testing for COVID-19.
Was the principal limiting factor
Beware.
the state of California, swabs, as well as the media, the transport, the news, the other technology that's coming on, all of the announcements you've heard in the last 24, 48 hours, including this morning. There is not a company that has been referenced, either by your own reporting or someone else's, that hasn't been in contact with us, that we're not in contact with. But I want to caution folks on the scale ability of some of these promoted we have the resources with these companies. They have many partners, some others, in order to adopt and strategize on the scale that is being promoted. And we've been looking at advanced conversations on the body, dealing with this crisis head on to coming back into some semblance of normalcy. And those protocols and those processes, those negotiations are happening in real time. I mentioned just yesterday, we were down the day before at Bloom Energy, right next door to us, was one of a well-known, at least well-discussed company in the space, California-based company. We're engaging we know that it's not going to be not one company or one strategy continue to work on this. And now moving into the pure logic testing zone to